I wanted to know if you see any convergence between the type of research that you do and emerging platforms such as Up42 that are trying to make commercial data more easily available. Do you have any thoughts on this?
The future of environmental sciences is going to rely even more on satellite data.
Hi, everyone. I am your host, Thais. And in today's episode of Looking Up with Up42, we are welcoming Africa Flores-Anderson. Hi, Africa.
Hi, Thais. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So I wanted to talk about your career a little bit in the beginning. And if people look you up, they will see that you started your journey in GIS, and now you are a strong advocate for open science, also with the NASA Surveyor program. And I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about your journey and how you got where you are today.
Sure. Yes, I'm originally from Guatemala, and I study natural resources back in the San Carlos University in my home country. And I learned a lot about management, natural resources from forest, water, and soil. And I took an elective course. It was elective. I don't know if it's still categorized as elective for GIS. And it completely changed my perspective because everything that I was doing in the field, taking samples for water or for soil, and also measuring forests and trees, I could put it in a two-dimensional plane. Satellite data from Landsat wasn't freely available. So there was not that much access to that data. But as soon as I started working with Surveyor, which was in 2008, it was the beginning. It was like that transitional year in which the satellite archive became freely available and completely changed everything. And I wanted to understand more. I wanted to learn the basic principles of how all this worked. Why was that I could see forests and the extent and quality of it, or the quality and extent of water derived from satellite images. And that's how I got into air observation and satellite remote sensing.
I also heard that you mentioned water quite a few times, and just recently you launched a platform with the University of Alabama in Huntsville to monitor algae in Lake Atitlan, if that's correct?
Yes, Lake Atitlan.
Yeah. Could you explain me a bit what's happening in the background of this platform and how you're using artificial intelligence?
Yes, this was a project funded by National Geographic and Microsoft. We had been working in Lake Atitlan since 2009, when the first algae bloom occurred. So Lake Atitlan is a landmark for Guatemala. It's the second most visited site in the country. And I always say this, it's the most beautiful lake in the world, not biased because I'm from Guatemala, but it is. It is surrounded by volcanoes. It is well known for the transparency of its water during the dry season. The transparency can reach 20 meters, now 15 meters, but that's significant. The lake is very deep. At its deepest point is about 300 meters in the center of the lake. But imagine like 20 meters of transparency, like a whole building of about 10 floors of transparency, a landmark of biodiversity as well, given the topography. There are a lot of endemic species. But since 2009, it has been suffering from algae blooms. And through Survey, we were able to monitor the extent of this algae bloom. At its largest point, it covered 40% of the lake, and it lasted for about a month. It has been the largest algae bloom that the lake has experienced. And since then, we have been working with local authorities to monitor these algae blooms. And I furthered the research in Lake Atitlan by deriving chlorophyll concentration from satellite images, customized for Lake Atitlan, using hyperspectral data. From there, since 2009, we were monitoring the lake, and every time that there was an algae bloom, we will have we will provide information and coordinate with local authorities. At the beginning, at the very beginning, it was a qualitative type of analysis in which we could say there is more algae bloom here and maybe less here. Once I developed the algorithm, we could transition that to a quantitative analysis and say there is this amount of chlorophyll here, and we could measure in quantities chlorophyll concentration. And we realized many things, that the algae blooms were becoming more frequent in the lake, unfortunately, even though the relevance that the lake has for the country and the local communities. The even water of the lake is used for human consumption, but the tourism is also a big source of income for all the towns that are located around the lake. So we realized that more algae blooms were happening, and understand a little bit more of the behavior of these algae blooms. And this, was research and monitoring that we had been doing since 2009. And one of the things that some of the parameters that we identify as contributors for algae blooms was like usually they happen at the end of the rainy season. So we evaluated about 20 environmental variables using artificial intelligence from 2009 to 2019, about 10 years of daily data from weather information that could give us indication of all the things that I explained. We could derive some atmospheric variables, some satellite remote sensing derived variables that give us information about temperature, precipitation, runoff, etc. There were in total 20 for daily conditions. And using artificial intelligence, specifically machine learning, we tested multiple machine learning algorithms to see which had the best performance and more explicative value for algae bloom formations. We finally got our model. We identified the variables that had the most value to explain algae blooms in Lake Atitlan. And then there was a lot of work to make that model operational. And that's what we just launched a few weeks ago. And actually, because it has been running for quite some time now, and we always are in communication with local authorities, they use the information. This is a forecasting system, by the way. So it gives information about when the probabilities for an algae bloom are present. And it was giving us high probability values of algae bloom for many consecutive days during August and September. And because it was very cloudy, we couldn't completely confirm with satellite images. Yes, there are a few days where there is cloud-free, but then maybe we don't have an image for that particular day. But the local authorities, because our forecasting was high, they went to the field, took samples, and confirmed the algae blooms in the lake. So we are happy that this forecasting system is informing local authorities about when to go and take samples to confirm if there is or there is not an algae bloom in the lake. And they have already in place an alert system and a harmful algal bloom alert system, in which once this is confirmed, depending upon of the concentration that they find, chlorophyll concentration that they find in the water, they have like the level of alert. And they already have an action plan depending upon what alert is identified and which groups they should communicate and reach out. So that all of that took place this time, and the forecasting system is well linked to their alert system. So we're very happy for that. I'm very happy for it, and creating something that hopefully is useful for a community in Guatemala, from where I am. Yeah.
It sounds super interesting. I'm super impressed. I also have a question related to the last conversation we had. And we talked about how the geospatial industry is exploding and expanding at a tremendous rate. And I wanted to know if you see any convergence between the type of research that you do and emerging platforms such as Up42 that are trying to make commercial data more easily available. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, I think that we are in exciting times for satellite remote sensing and the availability of satellite information. In terms of convergence, I think that there are more services. For me, the future of environmental sciences is going to rely even more on satellite data. And it's not only for environmental sciences. I think that there are many other applications in which satellite data and the different products, platforms, and companies that are providing services are going to benefit all these different areas. There is a long way ahead. And for example, the example of Lake Atitlan, for me, is a clear example that there are very customized solutions that are needed, that need a lot of work and research. And therefore, the more data that we have, the more services, the more people that we have working and thinking, what is the customized solution for this particular problem, the better. And this is not to say that the field work is going away, because the only way to do that is with in situ data, with field data. But we need that merging more and prepare professionals to be able to uptake satellite technology, because the future of all these different sciences and environmental science, I think, is going to benefit and depend on this. So we need to start preparing, which is happening already, our professionals to take advantage of that, to have more cost-effective solutions to monitor and manage our natural resources. And that's what I think is happening. And we need more young minds trying to solve these different specific issues or problems.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the geospatial industry needs the research and the scientific research in the background. And at the same time, these geospatial technologies that we see emerging are an extension of research, right? They're,
Yes.
as you said, very well, they're going into these very detailed and custom problems and bringing them to another level. But we always need research in the background, right?
Yes, yeah.
I have another question for you, which is for anyone who wants to follow your footsteps, work in open science, what are your recommendations to them? What would you say to our listeners?
Persistence and never give up. Like, I never imagined to be working in a program that is related to NASA, that I will become an Agile explorer. I never imagined to be a scientist, because scientist is not particularly a profession that we have in Guatemala. There is not that much resources for science and for research. But I always love to learn and understand how things work. And I have to say that it hasn't been easy. Keep facing obstacles like anyone else, but it is easy sometimes not easy to give up and say, okay, this is too much to bear. And whatever stage our listeners are in their careers, I would say just keep doing it. I didn't know, that I was able to do all of this, but I'm doing it. And if I can do it, you can do it. Yeah.
Can relate a lot to your advice. I feel like I'm going to take that home. And yeah, Africa, I think this was it. I definitely want to visit Lake Atitlan after this conversation.
Oh, yes, you have to. Yes.
Thank you so much for your time. This was it for Looking Up with Up 42. If you want to know more about what we do, you can visit our website at up42.com. And of course, you can reach out to Africa. She's very knowledgeable. And if you're interested in what she just said, I think she's fine if you reach out to her on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Thank you. You too.